Good to see you.
Well, it's good to see you too.
I'm back.
I know you're back.
I'm like, do I have the record for like being the guest the most times?
Yeah, you have the record. Welcome to the Gig Harbor Flycast. We haven't done an episode in a long time.
Really? How
Yeah,
long?
it's been months and months.
We're back.
Well, and it's like, you know, it's a little demotivational to, to hit record when you're not around.
Oh, okay.
It's so you go, out of the country and it's like, well, geez,
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to.
You should talk about going out of the country, buddy.
Yeah, I know, right?
I saw that Cuban permit that you caught on a cloudy day. That was impressive. I know two.
I got two of them.
Were they both on cloudy days?
Slightly cloudy and then very
Very
cloudy.
cloudy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Well,
double. That's double points.
that is double points.
Yeah.
Hey, so today I'm with my buddy Brian Bennett, and we're just getting together to hang out and catch up. And it's always really interesting to talk to Brian. And so, and I know a lot of you like to listen in too. So we thought we'd sit down, record some fun stuff,
Yeah.
and catch up, and then we're gonna go grab lunch.
Yeah. I like it.
That's the plan.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm back, and so, like, as the multiple guests, I know on SNL, I saw, like, when Martin Short, they gave him the coat that had the 5 on it because he had hosted 5 times. I'm like,
I have no coat for you or waiters like somebody.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, funny.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's good to be back. Yeah, got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to catch up on.
I know.
Been gone for a while.
I know. So, before we dive into your recent month-long trip to New Zealand, um, you're the communications guy for AFTA, for the
Yep.
American Fly Fish Trade Association.
Yeah.
And so, you have had with this role kind of like a behind the scenes look at the industry.
Yeah.
And so I was just kind of curious of like what your take was on kind of where the fly fishing industry is at, maybe some of the things you've learned recently about it, maybe what some of its challenges are, or maybe some of its opportunities, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
We can kind of just like free.
Yeah. Let's, yeah, I think, the one thing I would say about fly fishing, which is unique in kind of the outdoor space, I mean, it is an outdoor pursuit, is that it is an industry that is dominated by small retailers, specialty, independent fly fishing retailers like yourself. And that's really unique. I mean, even you look at other, outdoor pursuits like just regular general outdoor, you've got REIs and, big retailers that dominate the space. And so that's unique. And so there's a dynamic to that. It's very, very special. Because when you shop at your local retailer, you're, not only supporting the retailer, you're supporting the community, supporting jobs in that community. So I think, all of us should be proud of the fact that, that the industry is shaped that way. And also, I would reinforce that it's important that you continue to support your local retailer as much as you can. So there's that. I think the industry is a little bit of a crossroads to some extent. I mean, in a lot of ways, fly fishing has become a lot more popular. I mean, there was a huge spike during the pandemic because people were trying to figure out what they were going to do. And we may have lost some of those folks, but, I think with, kind of changing political climates and things like that, also the big highs of the pandemic, it's not just in fly fishing, it was happening in outdoor and in bike and all those outdoor pursuits.
Yeah.
Uh,
Kayaking,
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
anything outside.
Anything outside, there was a huge spike, and now we're, dealing with it's kind of settled back to kind of where it was before.
Yeah.
It's always tough to anniversary those big spikes, like
But we can't take time off work to go fish because we got to be able to pay for eggs and like.
exactly. Yeah, no doubt. Eggs are, yeah. So there's that, and I think that there's also been a changing business landscape in general, not just in fly fishing, but there's no more trade shows, really. I
Right.
mean, outdoor retailers, they used to have 2 massive trade shows. They're down to 1. You still have the ICAST show, but that's generally a conventional tackle show for fishing. So, and so the trade does get together. It's more educationally based. But I think there's still a search for, how do we get together as community? And I think it's important, just like I would ask customers to support their local retailer. I think it's important for businesses and the trade to support their local trade associate, their trade association. I mean, that's the voice of the trade. I mean, I know you're an AFTA member, and it does provide. The trade associations do provide value, educational stuff. There's a lot happening with tariffs in this industry right now.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that? Not only as a brand but as a retailer. You look at a 25% tariff on aluminum. That's going to impact a lot of products that you carry in your shop, and so the trade kind of helps with that. And so, yeah, it's been really fun. I think we're doing a good job, I think, in communicating and showing the value of the trade association. I mean, there's some things the trade association does that's pretty boilerplate, like insurance and better shipping rates, but that's kind of standard fare.
Sure.
How does it go further? So, and we actually have an event next week in Boulder, Confluence. You were at the last one in New Orleans.
Yeah, I wish I could go to Boulder, but, I'll be in Mexico, unfortunately, and that was already scheduled before, the Boulder thing was scheduled, but,
Yeah,
they're doing Asheville, North Carolina in October,
yeah,
and I think I'm, like, 50-50 on it right now, like, the dates aren't great dates for me, but
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to make it
Yeah, well, the reason there's a real reason for Asheville. I mean, Asheville got hit really hard with the hurricane, and so there's a lot of fly fishing businesses there that are really hurting because of the devastation that happened there. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of put some money back into the community and bring some economic, a little bit more economic push to that. So I think that one will be well attended, and there's a lot of people in that region. And Boulder is going to be good too because it is a pretty much a hotbed. There's a lot of retailers and brands based in
right.
Colorado. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's gonna be good to see old friends again and spend some time. Maybe get a little fishing in. We'll see. I used to live in Boulder, so it's
Yeah.
kinda going home for me.
So for the with the tariff thing, I mean, I've had customers ask about this, and, you know, do you think, I mean, how much of a negative effect is it gonna have on some brands? Like, I mean, are we gonna see some brands, like, fold underneath the pressure of that, or do you think it's not that much? Or I mean, because I don't really.
Yeah, I bet it depends
No.
on where you're getting your products from, right? So if you got a domestic manufacturer, the problem is if you're getting, raw materials are an issue, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of our aluminum, for example, comes from Canada, like a lot of it. And so, that's gonna have an impact on product. I don't in the short term, theoretically, spring's already been delivered. It's all here. So the price increases are going to come later. And I talked to somebody actually while I was on my way over here, who's not in the fly fishing business, but they're in the outdoor space. And they have some product that comes out of China and they're expecting like 30% price increases for the fall goods. Uh,
Wow.
So,
Yeah,
eh,
and, like, when you have, I mean, like, the products coming out of China, let's just use an example of fly rods. The competitive advantage with those products is price,
correct.
and
So,
so now all of a sudden
for sure.
you don't have the
For
advantage
sure.
of
And I know that, I'm not super fluent in the manufacturing base in China when it comes to fly rods. I know a lot of fly rods come out of Korea.
yeah,
And so I don't think Korea is impacted, because of our alliance with Korea. So those rods or most likely will be immune from some of that. I think where the challenge will be is in the components. So,
oh yeah,
yeah,
sure,
so that's where your price increase will likely come there. And some people have already like mitigated, like guys like Yeti, they moved production out of China. As soon as this thing happened, they moved.
huh,
They had the flexibility to be able to do that. There's a lot of people doing the best they can.
yeah,
And also, it's going to put a focus on domestic manufacturing for sure. No
yeah,
doubt. And one good thing, I mean, I think, to some extent, there is a base in fly fishing, and let's be real, the guy that's going to, you know, Cosmoleto isn't really worried about how much his fly rod's going to cost, right? So um, there is that customer base that it's somewhat not impacted in terms of what the price looks like. But there is a bigger, this is one thing I did learn at AFTA, is there's a growing demographic in fly fishing that is younger
yeah,
and I think you probably saw this in the data, and is not your traditional, the income level that you would think.
Right.
Like, you would think, "Oh, it's actually much lower," and so, yeah, the impact on those rods that are, a better price. I do think, and this is something if you look at and you've taken advantage of this in your own business, but if you look at the recycled, reused industry at large, right? Not in fly fishing, but you look at an outdoor. Every major apparel brand outdoor has a reuse program.
Sure.
Patagonia started it with Warnwear. Who doesn't have a bunch of rods in their, closet that they're right?
I know.
That so there there's some other opportunities
Yeah.
in that respect. And how does it become more of a, cultural part of the industry as opposed to there's a lot of people that do eBay programs and things
Sure.
like that. But it's not something that's kind of industry wide, I think. So
Yeah.
there's some lessons to be learned there, perhaps. I mean, the reuse business is multiple billions of dollars right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
How do you grow in other ways when and you have some flexibility because your business is not just, you've got the boat business, you have some other avenues there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kayak business though, is struggling right now for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no one wants to buy expensive fishing kayaks
That's right.
when they already bought them all
That's
during
right.
during
That's right.
COVID.
About selling see,
Yeah.
"Hey, sell my boat for me."
Yeah, of course it
For
can.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what else about industry before we move on? Anything else that's just kind of burning a hole in your head that you're thinking about?
Not really. I mean, I think, there's been a lot of moving parts in the business, in terms of, some of the major players. There's been some changes here and there.
Right.
Sims guys got sold a couple times in the last basically 2 years, 18 months. They've
Yeah.
acquired twice. I think Loop Tackle got bought out by a giant communications firm, multi-billion dollar company.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. So that, as industries evolve, consolidation is always a part of it.
Yeah.
We see it, is we got the Mayfly Group that owns a handful of brands. You look at the Far Bank guys; they got a handful of brands.
Right.
So I think there's, at least in terms of cultural brand stuff, I think there's, probably room for, brands that are, standalone and fresh and new, and might have more to talk about that later.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, well, so, you got to go on a pretty incredible trip to, New Zealand,
Yeah.
and you just got back.
Yep.
Um, so, um,
I was there for a month.
yeah,
Yeah,
a
crazy.
lot of fishing.
Yeah, not as much as I expected. So here's the
Sure.
thing about going to New Zealand, right?
Well, when Gary is so entertaining,
Yeah.
Gary the sheep,
Oh, there's
you
so much.
yeah,
Yeah.
then
Oh, yeah.
you gotta go on, Moldy Chum's Instagram to see,
Gary.
Gary the sheep. You give us a couple stories about Gary, 'cause it
So Gary's the I s- he so we lived in this. We got to stay down in Wakaya, and pardon my New Zealand friends if I butchered the name, but and we stayed at a place down there. And there's amazing fishing there, like incredible fishing. And there was a paddock next to the place we were staying, and in the paddock was one sheep. And you don't usually see one sheep in New Zealand. So you're usually in a station, and that's what they call sheep ranches or stations there. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sheep. But here's this one little paddock with Gary in it. And so I have a hunch that Gary's kind of the man about town, so to speak. Yeah. I don't actually know how we kind of walked.
Th
So,
his name was Gary or you guys named him?
no, his name is Gary
How do you know this?
because he's a
It
celebrity.
he's a so okay, he's
There's a
like,
beer named after Gary.
there's a beer named after
Oh,
Gary
yeah.
the sheep.
Oh, yeah, he is like he's a celebrity in this
So
small town. And so we would feed him apples in the morning and at night every day.
yeah.
We'd cut up apples and you'd call his name and he comes running over and he's a character. And so I've got a video of like literally, I showed it to you. He's like literally laying on his side eating grass, like laying. I was like, oh, those are some life goals right there. But I would get up in the morning and I was standing in like a bunk room and there was a big window and it looked right out onto Gary's paddock. And he'd be out there walking around and I'd get up and I'd look out and I'd see him and I would yell, Gary! And he would he like, like looking all over. It's like, it was the funniest thing. And yeah, that's like a classic New Zealand experience, right? Like if you look at if you look at things you do in New Zealand, like connecting with a sheep is like one of the things you probably do. There's sheep. There's freaking sheep everywhere. There's thousands of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like cruise along and like we were fishing the river one day and I go in and there were I mean brown trout slurping that morning, which was really unusual. And there was a sheep like stranded on the riverbank. Like it had walked down, kind of got halfway down and got stuck. And we didn't know how long it had been there. Like it was stressed. And Earl, our friend, walked over, picked it up, carried it back up the bank, dropped it off, and yeah, it's like it's
And it turned around, came right back down.
like back to the bank. Yeah. So it's a real cultural thing there. And merino wool is a big part of that.
Yeah,
Like when
okay.
we were based in Wanaka, and literally on the main street in Wanaka, there's 4 wool boutiques. Some of the brands you've heard of, like Icebreaker, and some like Montreal, which is I'm wearing right now,
Yeah,
which is I had never heard of, build beautiful product. And, I mean, we all know the benefits of merino, but, I kind of dove into it a little bit more while I was there, and I appreciate it because I got to meet a lot of the people that are responsible for making the product.
sure, sure.
So that was super fun. And I learned a lot about it, like where, different stuff happens. So yeah, I was there for a month. And here's the thing about New Zealand, like, you kind of have a vision, right? I think it's on everybody's bucket list. If you're a fly fisherman, New Zealand's on your bucket list for sure. Greatest trout fishing in the world, right? Um, and in some ways, yeah, for sure. Also the hardest, like the hardest trout fishing I've ever experienced. Um, to the point like where I show up with like a sky blue hoodie on and they tell me I can't wear it on the river because it's not camouflaged enough.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like literally
You're, like, smearing mud on you
you
and
could.
sticking
Oh yeah, like
sticks
they
down
would
your
shade like they would take my hat away
yeah.
and give me another hat, like literally. So,
Forget changing the fly.
yeah, no,
That.
the fly thing was like it was dries was like, it doesn't matter what it was. As long as it's kind of floating and small and maybe yeah, it didn't matter.
Okay.
Um, so and maybe it does at other times. Now here's I think and I mentioned this to you earlier. So it's hard fishing. In perfect conditions, it's hard fishing. Now add on, we were there, and according to the people that I was hanging out with and fishing with, it was the driest it had been in 25 years. So you had rivers that, I had friends that say, well, last time I was here, we couldn't cross this river. That's how big the water was.
Yeah.
This year you could cross that river anywhere you wanted
Yeah.
to. So it had an impact. So it made it even harder. Um, but the fish are big. Like on the Wakaya, we fished like you didn't see a brown trout under 5 pounds. Like didn't see one under 5 pounds.
Wow.
Um,
They just magically appear at 5 pounds.
exactly.
Yeah, like, where do they come from?
That's
Like,
exactly right. And what we don't understand, and here's
tributaries?
yeah, it could be,
Yeah.
and they're spooky,
Yeah.
and we couldn't figure out why they're so spooky. Well, the water's
Low
perfectly clear.
low water.
Well, yeah, but they're spooky even when it's not low water.
Yeah.
They have no predators. There's
N
no birds of prey.
Really?
There's falcons and harriers. That's basically it. Harriers they don't eat fish. They eat carrion. They eat rotting stuff.
Okay.
And falcons don't eat fish either.
So there's no osprey, there's no
No,
eagles, no
no,
nothing.
no.
Yeah.
So you go, why are they so spooky?
Yeah.
But you don't get to be 5 pounds by being stupid,
Right.
right? So, um, and generally, it's a hunting game. You're walking on a high bank, looking to spot fish and helping your buddy make a cast to a fish that's sitting.
Yeah.
Um, but you get one shot,
Yeah. That's
and
it.
and that's it. And if you blow it, it's gone. Like forget it. You start walking and you find the next fish. Now, like 3 or 4 fish days are, really good days
Yeah.
in this particular watershed. But you saw a lot more fish. Like you'd see 40 or 50 fish.
Okay.
Yeah. Like it wasn't. And so, you're stimulated because you're trying to figure out how to make the cast or trying to figure out where that fish is, or sometimes they're slurping and timing it. Um, but there are times when those fish do, get easier and easier to catch depending on certain conditions. Now, one of them is they call it grubbing.
Grubbing.
Yeah. And so there's a grub that like literally develops on the leaf.
Okay.
And it's like a little like it looks like a seed, like a red seed, but if you squeeze it, there's like a grub inside of it. Well, the trees grow over the water.
Okay.
So
How big is this? Can you
small, very
uh,
small, like, they're longer, maybe, I mean, smaller than an almond, like really small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when those things hatch, they
Yeah.
fall into the water.
Yeah.
And the
It's just straight protein.
and that's when that's when the fish they call it they're grubbing,
Yeah.
and they get dumb and just boop,
And
and you throw the grub fly.
the grub
The
fly.
grub fly. And it's interesting, the grub fly, I mean, this may be the people I was hanging with, but it's like this not they don't like to fish that way because it's not that
Yeah.
that challenging, right? I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure.
But I was like, bring it on.
Yeah. Right.
I there were like literally other than one day where I saw brown trout like regularly slurping, I didn't see trout rising at all.
Wow.
At all.
Wow.
Now seasonally, and this again, this is anecdotal evidence, this is what I was told,
Yeah.
that it's different earlier in the season. Water tends to be higher, more water. It is possible a lot of those fish had moved down to the lakes because of the lack of water,
Just slow water. Yeah.
the water. And also later, so even like a little bit later than now, because we're kind of cyclical, right? So it's the end of their summer right now.
Okay.
Um, there are more hatches. It's like I saw no hatches while I was there. The only thing I saw that identified as a hatch was some midge husks.
Hmm.
That was it. Never saw the hatch. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you look at that and you go, "Oh yeah, New Zealand's got the greatest fly fishing in the world." Yeah, I think I wrote this. I said, "Yeah, it's the same people that tell you that kale tastes great, and putting together IKEA furniture is intuitive. Like it's challenging." Now, and here's
I
the
like kale, by the way. Yeah, I like kale. Now, IKEA furniture, I'm with you on that one. Totally with you on that one.
and here's the thing. Like when a lot of people go to New Zealand, they do the lodge thing or whatever. Like so you're there for like 10 days. You're fishing kind of similar water. The thing is, you go to New Zealand, you can't go for a week. It's too far. Yeah, it's a haul to get there.
Yeah. So how you flew Seattle to?
I went Seattle, Vancouver, Vancouver, Auckland, Auckland, Queenstown, because I was on the South Island.
Okay.
And I can't speak about the North Island. Like I've heard, oh, the hatches are better on the North Island. The fishing's really good up there too, but I don't know anything about the North Island. I'd love to go back there. But I only spent my time on the South Island. And yeah, so it's 24, 28 hours of travel time. And you're there, you spend a week. You're like, no. So you got to spend at least a couple of weeks if you're going there. So you could do the lodge thing for a week and spend more time there. Um, and also, you could get bad weather or whatever. So, and the fishing is a bonus, is how I would put it. New Zealand is like, it's hard to wrap your head around. And the only way I described it is it's Disneyland meets Jurassic Park. Like, seriously. Like, you go to these places and you go, how can this place even exist? And it is a series of different microclimates. So, like, we were driving along, I go, hey, we're in Wenatchee. Like,
Okay.
it looked just like Wenatchee. Oh, we're in Montana. No, we're in the Alps. Like,
It
seriously.
just changed
It's
super fast.
it's an island,
Yeah.
and it has like the most diverse landscape that you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And you can't go from point A to point B rapidly anywhere in the South Island. There's no like every road is 2 lanes and they have to go around lakes, over mountains. Things aren't very developed because you can't develop on hillsides. The mountains are still growing there,
Yeah.
like the width of your fingernail a day. Like seriously,
Wow.
like they're very young mountains,
Yeah.
and there's glaciers and all of that. So that's the other thing. It's like, I don't need to fish today. I can go do this. If you can do both, like I was telling you, we fished the Eglinton. Oh, it's like you read about the Eglinton, and it's in this valley that it's literally the Lord of the Rings. Like seriously, like, and I was like, Mr. Frodo, is it time for second breakfast? Like, it was up constantly, like that whole program. And it's the most spectacular water in the most spectacular setting you've ever seen. We fished it for 2 full days. We saw 2 fish.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you're going, "Wait a
And it
second."
didn't hook two fish.
Saw 2
Two
fish, didn't
fish.
hook any fish.
Wow.
It was tough. And we also fished the East Branch of the
Maybe there
Eglinton.
was a die off from all that orc blood. That
Could be.
Yeah.
Ex no doubt. There's guidebooks of, like, where to go see the Lord of the Rings stuff and the Hobbit stuff and where it's all been shot.
Would you have caught more fish if you had, like, dressed up like a hobbit?
Possibly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then you're kinda blending in.
I coulda used the ring and vanished. That would've made it more. I thought about doing that. I should have done it. I was, like, gonna do this on the bank with, like, my wedding band because my wedding band kinda looks like the ring,
Oh,
and kinda go and you could do it really easily with an edit cut, like, just go, the ultimate camouflage for fly fishing in New Zealand. So, but here's another I could tell you some funny stories, like, just think about, "Oh, New Zealand, dry fly," and, so they have very little dry fly fishing. So we went and we fished the mouth of the Hunter, which is, again, another insanely beautiful valley with, like on a lake, and we took a boat to get to the mouth, like a long boat ride. And you had to wait for the perfect day because the wind kicks up there like it does in South America, like,
sure.
it nukes.
Yeah.
And so we found the perfect day, went over, got to the mouth, and these river mouths are massive. So you get an idea of how much water must come down in the runoff.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's gotta be just I mean, these river mouths are literally a half a mile across, and they're all gravel,
Yeah.
but when we were there, it's just braids, right? And so we went and we fished right off of the mouth, found a grass island, bumped the boat up, got out, started walking around, and there were fish everywhere. And we were like, "Oh, dry fly, hopper dropper, cicada, da 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 da." And then my friend Carl goes, "Hey, you got any of those San Juan worms in your box?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I got 3."
It's a long way to go to fish a San Juan.
Right. So I put it on there, like, I throw it like 10 feet in front of this giant brown trout,
Yeah.
and it charges and just and
Just
like boy,
munches.
this and like jumps out of the water, and it's I'm serious, it's 10 pounds.
Wow.
And it lands and breaks off like, ah. So retie up another San Juan worm, and then I got just a couple of like spectacular rainbows, like 6 pound, 7 pound rainbows, just and, like, same thing, you'd, like, cast it behind it, and they would turn around. They'd hear the plop, and they'd turn around and go eat it.
Yeah.
Like, where, generally, like, you did that on any other river, you wouldn't see that fish for another week.
Right,
But
right.
but it was, like, it's so beautiful, like, and these valleys are so huge, people fly planes to get in, they bush planes, and
Okay.
they land on the gravel there.
Is that like what the lodges do, is they fly people out
I don't I
different
think
spots?
I don't think there's a lodge in there, but a lot of those lodges are helicopter flyouts.
Okay.
There's a lot of helicopters in New Zealand. Yeah, like, they're everywhere. Like, you drive down the road, and it's like, "Oh, helicopter tours," and
Yeah.
so we went to Milford Sound, which is like when you go to New Zealand, you gotta go to Milford Sound, you need to go to Douglas Sound. And what's crazy is Milford Sound is it's a place where you go, "How does a place like this even exist?" And it goes all the way out to the ocean. So you could take a boat ride out, and you go all the way out, and you ride through this thing, and there's, like, cruise ships come in just to look at it. They can't dock there.
Sure.
They come in on their tours to look at it,
Yeah.
and this sound is so big that they can literally turn the cruise ship around inside the sound. I have pictures of it, like, it looks like a toy boat. There's 50-story waterfalls
Wow.
with, like, mountains and glaciers and dolphins jumping,
Do
and
they have any anadromous fish?
so they tried salmon.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't really work out, but
Okay.
they still do have somewhat. Um, it's funny that
Do you
you
run browns maybe?
a little bit,
Okay.
but the one thing that I was like, "Why don't they have any steelhead here?" Because they have rainbow trout, big
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
They do have them in rivers that I was like, you look I have some video of a river we hiked to, and you looked at it, and it looks like beautiful steelhead water, like the finest steelhead water you've ever seen, but they're rainbow trout. Like, most of them aren't. I think a lot of those rivers, I mean, there are rivers that ultimately connect to the ocean, right? So you would think there would be some anadromous fish there, but I think that the fish don't need to go out to the ocean. They got all they need
Hmm. That's interesting.
in their native water, and I mean, shoot, they're big. I mean, there's 10-pound rainbow trout,
Yeah.
and they kind of look like steelhead. But I was like, I'm gonna smuggle some steelhead in.
Well, it's in their DNA, right? I mean, I think,
It's good.
there's rivers like, like the Deschutes River has a really high percentage of
It
resident
does.
rainbows
Right.
but it's because of the food base,
Right.
they don't need to leave.
Exactly.
Whereas, like, you look at the food base of, say, the Hoh River,
That's right. There isn't any of that.
there's like,
Exactly.
yeah, not
That's what, yeah, and I think I think ultimately there is a fairly good sized food base there. Although you look at it and you go, "Oh, shit, it floods here a lot."
yeah,
But,
floods all those San Juan worms in,
right?
swarmy wormies.
I know, it was just like, and that was what Carl kept saying to me, he goes, "Do you believe it? You came all the way to New Zealand to catch a trophy trout on a San Juan worm." I was like, "Man's gotta do what a man's gotta do."
And that's what Photoshop's for.
I was like, I know I could have hailed that brush. I could have used the hailing brush and taken that thing out instantly, but I was like, I'm gonna leave it in here. Yeah, for sure. It was super fun. It's a wonderful place. The people are amazing. Like it's just, and it's a melting pot of, because there's everybody's traveling there. I mean, there's not a lot of people. Wanaka is an amazing place. I didn't get a chance to spend a ton of time in Queenstown, but you go down to the waterfront in Queenstown, and it's like every major retailer on the planet. Say Patagonia's got a store there. Like it's beautiful on the waterfront, packed with people. You can take jet boat rides, parasailing rides. I mean, it's all about bungee jumping and jumping out of airplanes. I mean, that's what New Zealand's all about. I didn't get to do the bungee jumping thing. The next time I go, I'm going to do it for sure.
I would definitely not do that.
You should see. We drove by the bridge. Like it's the highest bungee jump in the world.
Yeah, no thanks.
It's like what?
Yeah, yeah, I'm not doing that, not doing skydiving,
This
not yeah.
Yeah, it's like why drive out of a perfectly good airplane to
I think
jump?
fishing is squirmy wormy would be the most, adventurous,
Uh,
I would
but they've got so we drove to this town called Hasta, and then took a left and drove to the other road. And it was funny because that was the joke. It was Hasta La Vista, baby. It's like all day. We're in Hasta, I think. Are we in Hasta? Yeah. So we drove literally the end of the road to go to a fish and chips place.
yeah?
And it was remarkable. And they had these green lipped mussels, like literally mussels where the edge of the shell is bright green.
Yeah.
They're crazy and they're insanely good. So there's actually a really interesting culinary base there. They're beyond, but they also have a thing there called a white bait sandwich. Sorry, white bait sandwich.
White bait sandwich.
So they love to go fishing for white bait. And the only way I could describe what white bait looks like, I don't know if it's an immature fish or it's its own little thing, but it looks like a gummy minnow, like about the size of a gummy minnow. And
Okay.
it's silver,
Yeah.
and they catch them in nets,
Yeah.
and they stick them in the freezer. And they're like, so we're sitting around, like, hey, you want a white bait sandwich? We're like, what? Yeah. So they take the white bait, they put it in a bowl, and they crack 2 eggs into it, and they mix it all up. They pour it in a pan and fry it like an egg with the bait, and then they put it on white bread and butter. It's a sandwich, the white bait sandwich. And it's actually really tasty. I thought it was really good. But when I asked if I could put hot sauce on it, they like really are ready to string me up. You can't put hot sauce on a white bait sandwich. I was like, this would be delicious with some habanero on it.
Yeah.
No, not allowed.
Yeah.
Oh
Wow.
yeah.
That's pretty
So,
funny.
but there's like great Indian food. I mean, because it's a great cultural mix there. Um, yeah, and there's so much to see. Like I think, and from the fishing standpoint, you can fish different water every day and never stop. There's so much
Yeah.
to
Just
do, right?
okay. So if you went back and you were gonna go for another month,
I'm going to.
what month would you go? The
I would.
the February
I would
in?
leave now.
Okay, so you'd go
I'd go later
later. You go later in March.
in April.
So
The other thing that happens now very soon is the brown trout will be coming up out of the lakes to spawn.
with probably some bigger ones around too.
Huge. So we took a jet boat ride. Of course we did because that's what you do in New Zealand,
Yeah.
which was amazing. Again, it was the same thing. It was like, looking for Gollum. And it's like, oh yeah, they shot that over there and they shot that over there. I was like, okay. And the jet boat driver was like, well, yeah, we got a trout that like lives here, but he was telling us in the next couple of weeks the browns were going to start coming up out of the lake. We fished the mouth of that lake. One day we went down hoping we'd find some fish, but it was nuking like crazy. Like,
Really?
yeah, its wind was so high. And we had fished the mouth of the Eglinton one day. We walked down and where it pours into the lake, and it's like it's a big, and threw a you know bait fish pattern in and
Yeah.
just let it swing. 24-inch rainbow.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like, okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So and they have freshwater eels there. that get like as big as your leg.
I've seen video of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
Did you
seen.
see any of
I
them?
did twice.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went at that mouth, like a small one, and then on Lake Wanaka, they have a place where you can buy some fish food, and you can go and like supposedly feed the fish. So we got to do it. Somebody said, "Oh, this, but you're not gonna believe how big the fish are." So we started throwing the pellets in, and the only thing that showed up was a bunch of ducks and a giant eel. It was like eel food.
So do they eat the eels or
Yeah, I think the natives do. Yeah, Maori. I mean, that was the other interesting thing about New Zealand. There's that great native Maori culture there, and they really embrace it. I mean, it was a classic kind of, they lived there first. They've been there for about 600 years. Came from Polynesian islands, and they were subjugated quite fiercely. But now it's very much they've embraced that culture, and so it's really cool to see. There's a lot of Maori influence, the art, those kind of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would go later. The rumor has it that there's more hatch activity later in the year, so I'd either go later or earlier. Earlier, the challenge is you're gonna have, when do you go when it's not running
Run
off?
off,
So
yeah.
yeah, so they only fish November 1 to May 1. Everything closes on May 1st.
Oh, okay.
That's when bird season opens, and they say, "Yeah, you get shot while you're out there." I'm like, but and then also it's good for the fish, right? Because they don't get touched for 6 months. So that's the other reason to come in November. Now we fish some places like it's not crowded, but it can't handle it doesn't take much, right? Because there's so few fish per,
Right.
you know,
Right.
kilometer. Now, one interesting thing they do there was when you get your license, you get a card that says I'm fishing up or I'm fishing down. And you put it on your dashboard where you park your car.
Oh, nice.
So you know which way that person went. Because if you're following them, you're never going to catch a fish.
Yeah.
So
It'd be good information to know.
it's cool. Well, and I think that gives you an indication as to
Did
how
you
tricky
did you
the
bring
fish.
your drone with you?
I did
Did you fly it much?
once.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
like every trip I go on. I bring the drone, I lug it around everywhere,
fly it.
and then I never fly it.
And what happened, I did bring it to the mouth of the Hunter, and it would have been the perfect place to fly it. And I pulled it out, and it didn't have an SD card in it.
Oh, no.
And then I realized, I was like, "Oh, shoot." But I had my Osmo Pocket 3,
Yeah, yeah.
and I forgot. I was like, I could have just pulled the card out of that.
Yeah.
But I did fly it one day at the end, and it's like, wow, spectacular. But I was overweight, and I'll tell you what, they're super strict on carry-on coming back.
Yeah.
Going inbound, they weren't. Outbound,
Yeah.
your carry-on bags couldn't weigh more than 15 pounds. And
Wow.
I had 2, and they were both over 15. And so now I'm trying to sort everything out, which I managed to do, but I couldn't get the
You're like,
bag.
put it on extra pairs of socks, put it on.
Pretty much. So I had to check a bag, and it was $274 New Zealand.
Wow.
Well, here's the other thing about New Zealand everybody should keep in mind too. The exchange rate right now is incredibly favorable.
Really?
So I got a little tattoo, as you can see.
Yep, yep.
Show everybody.
There it
It's
is.
the fern. That's a silver fern, which is endemic to New Zealand. You only find silver ferns in New Zealand, and in certain
Or
spots
your arm.
on my arm.
Yeah.
So I was like, "How much?" He's like, $300. So I took $300 out of the bank. It was 181 US for 300 New Zealand. So
Well,
certain things are expensive, but going out to eat and services and things like that, gas is incredibly expensive. It's like $2.89 a liter. So it's over $10 a gallon. So when you go over, rent a hybrid. Um, a lot of people rent camper vans when they go. Like
yeah.
there's a huge camper van infrastructure there. Like you can literally get off the plane and walk across the street and pick up a camper van.
Yeah.
And there's all variations. There's the Maui ones, which are big. There's like the hippie versions, like the little ones, and most of them, like the smaller ones, are like splattered with advertising, and so you can see them coming a mile away. But it's fairly expensive. It's over north of $1,000 a week to rent a good sized motorhome there, and then you got to pay the camp fees. We did the Airbnb thing and rented a car, and we actually got a really good deal on our Airbnb. Like if I was to do it again, I would get a place and then try to rent a vehicle that had a rooftop tent on it.
Okay.
You could bring your own tent.
A grand doesn't seem like a lot to me. Like when you think of like
I think it's
fishing destinations that you're gonna go and you're gonna like say you
good.
go to
It's a
Alaska
good
and you're
point.
gonna,
It's a good point.
rent a vehicle
Yeah.
in Alaska, like it's
Yeah.
for like a small car, it's like $700 for the week.
Yeah,
You know?
I got a car for a month for $1,400.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's New Zealand, by the way. So it was
So with the exchange rate, it was
way even cheaper.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You can do that. But I think just in terms of mobility and the ability to be able to move around,
yeah,
like that's the thing in a motorhome. Like you want to like you have to like we rented a we got a Rav4. Like we drove down some dirt.
yeah,
You couldn't do it in the motorhome. Like to go
right,
to fish the mouth of the Eglinton,
right.
couldn't do it in the
Yeah, you
motorhome.
need something.
Yeah, so you need something with a little bit of clearance to it. Um, but it's all self doable.
Yeah,
It's all self doable. I think that it really, would have made a difference if we had had a guide on a really dry day, those days, maybe. But it wasn't like you couldn't see the fish. I mean, that was like, I know, I watched a recent film with O'Keefe that Todd Moan did with Brian O'Keefe. And you looked at that water, it was like the guy could see the fish. You wouldn't be able to spot the fish, like
mm,
super hard, much faster moving water. But these rivers were crystal clear,
yeah.
crystal clear.
Well, and you were with some pretty good anglers too. So
Yeah, I was with Carl McNeil, who owns Epic Fly Rods. And, he's a FFF, top, he made a couple of great movies, Once in a Blue Moon, which I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's an old one. It's about the mouse hatch in New
that's a
Zealand.
great, great, great film.
Great film. Yeah. And Jeannie, his wife, was a videographer. She's a ocean, like she shot, like deep blue stuff, like dove under the ice in Antarctica shooting, seals and orcas and all kinds of stuff. She did all the video work on that. And Earl, the guy that owned the cabin, did some stuff. So they're great people. And so yeah, and that's their favorite the place where we fish with all the brown trout, that's where their cabin is, and that's where they fish. They love
Yeah.
fishing there. And because it's a challenge every single time. Yeah.
And you had a couple buddies, along also.
Yeah, Bart was with me. He used to be the product line guy at Patagonia when I was doing fly fishing there. And then he went to Sims, and then his wife Taryn. We had a great time.
Was
Um,
he there for the whole month or just
yeah, we were all there for the whole month.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so we split the Airbnb.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we split the rental car,
Yep.
and then we split all our food, and so it was super reasonable with the exchange rate. And then there's lots of good New Zealand wine. Some people say it's too grassy, but I think it's they're known for their wines, especially their whites. And then they love their coffee there. They love the flat white, like that's the classic coffee.
Okay.
Lots of milk. The dairy there is exceptional. So when you get a coffee, it's like half milk, and then really good. Meat pies are a thing. So I was like it's a meat, like it's cultural there. Like you can get meat pies here. It was like I'm gonna get a meat pie truck. Like like steak and cheese meat pie. My God, right? They had chicken and leek meat pie. Like you go into the meat pie place, they have like 27 different types of meat pie,
Yeah.
and then they have a sausage wrapped in pastry. Like it was like wow. And
Yeah.
we was everywhere you stop. Got to try the meat pie in Manacora. You got to try the meat pie here. You got to try the meat pie there. Super good.
Yeah.
And then was nutty was like the gins they have there. Like they're it's all stuff you can't get anywhere else.
Sure.
So we stopped at a bunch of distilleries. I told you when I first got here, single malt vodka. Like what? Yeah, never had heard of it.
Did you bring anything back with
I
you?
brought back the single malt vodka.
Okay, you did. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was part of my weight issue coming back.
Yeah, well, 750 milliliter bottle of booze typically weighs 2.5
When
pounds.
you would know that, wouldn't you?
Just so, for future reference,
Exactly. Yeah,
so
and then there was there's some really good whiskeys that are local to New Zealand that I think you can get here. One, it sounds like Pokemon, but it's like Pokenon, Pokenon, but it's like world class award winning. Like
I should get one of those for the shelf over here.
absolutely, it's Pokenon. I'll try to find it. I'll bring you.
I'm just wondering what, like, the cap is like. It's like a
No,
little Pokemon character.
no, that was a joke for us. It's like, oh, Pokemon whiskey. Like, no, that yeah, the humor. There's a bunch of humor, to translating, and there's a bunch of New Zealand like terms, that are unique to New Zealand, which are really funny. I can't remember most of them. The one I do remember is I'm going to skive off today, which means you're not going to work.
Yeah.
Skive off means like think skive means like
Yeah.
gonna
Sure.
show up. It was always, and the beer was like the national beer is Spites, Speighcs. So when you order a beer, it's like, hey, what do you have? Oh, Spites, mate. Because you said just went Spites. They'd go, it's Spites, mate. Okay. Yeah.
They'd correct you.
Yeah. But
Uh,
lots of good beer, lots of good like the whole thing is just I wanna move there. It's like I wanna just yeah, I could you could it's incredible. But, people are like, "What do you guys do?" Like, there's a lot of building happening there.
yeah.
Like, you're trying to figure out, like, what do all your people do? Because all you're doing is recreating all the time, you know? So it is a lifestyle place, right? So work and lifestyle. I think they
They own camper vans that they rent out.
it's oh, yeah.
They don't need to do anything.
Pretty much. I saw a big old camper on the side of the road that apparently somebody had used because while they were building their house, and it was across the street from my friend Carl and Jeannie's place. And so I was like, "Hey, do you know how much they want for that thing?" It's like they knew the whole story behind it. I was like, "Yeah, I'll buy it and just put it in your yard." He's got a big yard. But yeah, here's a funny story. He bought a big Bayliner boat, like almost a 40-footer. And he's gonna bring it over to Lake he's gonna put it on a transport truck and bring it to Lake Tiano, which is spectacular. And it's gonna be where he's gonna stay when he's over in Lake Tiano. $300 a year at the marina for a 40-foot boat.
And that's in New Zealand dollars.
Yeah, well,
So
it's New Zealand dollars for him,
so
yeah, but it
yeah,
is, but yeah,
that's crazy.
I know. So, yeah,
Crazy, crazy.
super fun. What's going on here?
Oh, man.
Fishing.
Well,
Chum fry out?
I was gonna go take a look for some chum fry, but, I would imagine the early ones are coming out. Um,
A little early.
but, steelhead season wraps up here.
Yeah, how's it been?
Well, I think it was a tough year. I mean, we had 6 weeks of no rain there was rain the day after Christmas, and then
Right,
did not rain in Forks for 6 weeks.
right.
That's unheard of. I was out there, quite a bit in January, in all of that, low, clear water, and then early February, it snowed and got really cold, and was out there during all of that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Um and then, then things kind of felt a little bit more normal with the weather,
yeah,
but even like, week and a half ago, I was out there and, the morning was beautiful. And then all of a sudden we had this crazy hailstorm on us,
yeah, I saw that video, I think.
and then it
It
hailed
wasn't your video, it was actually
somebody else's. I mean,
yeah,
I posted one too, but like a lot of us did because then it hailed again like 30 minutes later, and then like an hour later it hailed again. Like it hailed like 9 times. Like it barely rained on us. It just would
yeah,
hail, and that's all it would do. We had a hail fight. Like we just scooped up all the hail in the boat. We're
right,
making like snowballs with them or hail balls with them
a
and
lot of hail.
hail, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just like it was just really some really weird weather.
Mhm.
And then last week I was out there with my buddy Michael just to kind of close out the season. I wasn't working, Aaron was working. And Michael and I fished for 2 days, and I swung a fish the first day, and
Nice.
beautiful 12-pound hen.
That
And
sounds beautiful. Yeah.
so that was nice to end the season that way.
Yep.
And um you know
Yeah. When does it close?
the 31st.
31st, right?
Yeah,
That's
so
close, yeah,
next week,
yeah,
uh,
soon.
or this week.
That's right.
Yeah,
This
this next weekend. and
yeah,
and the weather's looking right now, it's horrible.
right.
So the hoe jumped up to like 18,000 on the gauge,
Yeah, that's big.
and
Yeah.
it's still raining, and then it's gonna rain more on
Mhm.
Thursday, Friday. So it might punch for
Oh, wow.
I don't know, it might be fishable for the weekend,
Mhm.
but
Have you heard reports about the Skagit?
I haven't, no.
Me neither. It's funny, we didn't talk steelhead very much, I do still do the Wild Steelhead Coalition stuff. And, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what the download from up there is from the managers.
Yeah.
They had a good return last year, but effort was off the charts,
Yeah.
like high. So I don't know, like it was 10 times what it normally would be.
Wow.
And so at some point you kind of go, well, what's the experience going to be like?
Yeah.
So how do I mean, nobody wants to hear about limited entry and all that stuff, but at some point you got to go. It's just not sustainable. And I think there's probably options. Like you look at, and they do this on some rivers. It's like, yeah, it's wide open through March 1 and then March to the end, it's fly only, right? Like
Yeah.
there's ways you could do that, you know?
Yeah.
And so the experience is better and everybody gets their shot so I don't know, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
And we'll see where the returns come in.
Well, I'm excited for this spring.
Yeah.
I got, so I'm gonna take off from Mexico this week
Yeah. You're going to Christmas.
and then Christmas Island,
Yeah.
at the end of April.
You have some
And
open slots for that
I
too.
do have a couple open spots. There's only like 3 spots left on the plane.
All right. So get it.
So gotta jump on it. But yeah, looking forward to being back, seeing some of those guides
Yeah.
that I saw last year and hadn't seen for 5 years
Right.
before
Right.
that. And but then I'm just looking forward to a lot of like local fishing,
Me
and
too.
lakes are gonna open here next month. I know my son's really excited about that. And then I want to get out and do some bass fishing and
Yeah.
go. I'm gonna put some effort into chasing muskie this spring as
Oh,
well.
you're going to go down to
Mayfield, I'm gonna go.
Mayfield.
I'm gonna go down there. Yeah, why not?
Kayak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, go down
Go
there.
with you.
Yeah, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
do it. Yeah,
I love that place.
it's pretty cool. Aaron's got that thing
I fished with him that one day.
dialed
It
in.
was one of those days that we didn't see a fish with David Conrad and
Yeah,
got down. We saw a couple fish, but I mean, the first time I was down there, like it was like, boy, this is nuts. Like there were fish everywhere
yeah, yeah.
up on that sandy flat
Right,
down at the end.
right.
Those are hard fish to catch, but it
Yeah,
was super fun. And
yeah,
the only
yeah.
fish we caught were like blind casting at the bank.
Sure,
Kind of
sure.
classic thing. But
Yeah, and then I don't know. I'm really excited for saltwater stuff.
yeah,
This year. And
yeah, yeah.
so Aaron and I and Jeff, we're gonna host a guides happy hour event at the fly shop,
Oh, no kidding.
and we're doing that April 19th at 5 o'clock. And it's just an opportunity to come out, hear about the different opportunities that we're going to be hosting this next season. And we're also going to have a couple different kind of group trip opportunities for some cool stuff that we're not going to publicize anywhere else.
Love it.
And so it's only gonna be for
Local.
it's like, "Hey, we have this idea of doing this or that,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
if anyone's interested,
Yep.
like, we're gonna put this thing together,
Hmm.
but we're not gonna send an email out about it. It's not gonna be on the website,
Yeah.
and if
Yeah.
there isn't interest from the people that show up, then,
Right.
we probably won't do it, or, we'll do something else." It's a pink year this year
Oh,
too,
you took the words right out of my mouth
and
like a stupid.
7.8
Yeah,
million pinks,
I know.
and,
What?
that's a lot of fish. So, for us, it's like, "Oh, man, we're gonna be very busy from the last part of July into early September."
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting after him again with, how to
Yeah,
touch his boat and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, it'd be fun to get him in a kayak too, for sure.
it'll be
Yeah.
fun. And then we got the film tour in April,
That's right. I
and
forgot all about
I
that.
know I just posted on social today about it.
Yeah.
Because we're hosting
2
we're
shows.
hosting 2 shows, one in Bremerton on the 9th,
Yeah.
and then in Tacoma on the 10th.
Right.
And so just excited to
Yeah.
try to make it more accessible to people that are living on the
Yeah.
peninsula up north or in mid area. So
Cool. And I think that, yeah, I haven't, I think they sold out West Seattle. I'm pretty sure. I think.
I don't know.
I know they had a show. They had 2 shows in Seattle, right? They had one at the Egyptian and they had one there.
You know me. I don't pay attention to anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I
Never
mean, I haven't
funny.
heard anything about it
Yeah.
much. I mean, I saw the IF4 thing early on, but they had a couple good films. But I've heard from some people that they thought F3T was better, so to speak. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, hard
Cool.
to say. Yeah, it's all good.
Well, hey, we're almost at an hour, and
Wow,
I'm hungry.
I'm starving.
Let's go get
Let's
lunch.
go get a white bait sandwich.
I might wait and not get that, but hey, thanks for joining us today. And oh my gosh,
No bad things. Say no to bad things. Yes,
yes to rad things. That's what Brian's shirt says.
great.
Which I didn't realize that's
Right.
wool. Yeah, it is.
17.5 micron. It's finer than a human hair.
Wow. Yeah,
Super nice.
that is.
Well, everybody knows it's deal with wool, right?
Yeah, very
Keeps you
cool.
warm when it's cold and cool when it's warm.
Yeah,
It's the miracle fabric, and it doesn't stink.
yeah.
It's natural odor protection for some of us.
Okay, we're wrapping it up.
All right.
Hey, subscribe so you get we don't I don't post podcasts as often as I should, and so if you don't subscribe, like you're just never gonna know about them.
I'm gonna share this one on Moldy Chum.
Yeah, it'd be worth it.
On Moldy Chum social media.
Yeah.
Might be some Moldy Chum coming back.
Oh,
Mm,
did you need to talk about that at all?
no, just putting it out there.
Okay, that's enough.
That's enough.
Okay.
People have been asking for it.
The-
Like I send me a story and it's all black
yeah.
with the Black Lives Matter thing,
Yeah.
and then it says they put the script that says "Bring Moldy Chum back." I was like,
Okay, well the chum's coming back, and maybe the podcast is gonna be back on a more regular basis. So
"What?
yeah,
You could do a co-host thing.
yeah. So
We could really have some fun.
yeah.
We're gonna do some more whiskey tasting.
Oh,
Um,
hey, when I get back from Mexico, I have a plan of some different things I'm bringing back too.
oh,
There's at least 3 that
okay,
I have a plan to bring back. So
okay.
yeah, we'll
I
definitely get
want to hear
together.
all about that.
Okay,
All right,
well, hey,
look,
thanks for joining us,
for
and
listening.
yep, we'll see you. See you again. Bye.
Bye.